Welcome to Buckets. This is Action Network's daily basketball betting podcast. I'm Maria Marino, filling in for Matt Moore, and joining me are Brandon Anderson and Jim Turvey. So we need to look at the games for Tuesday, May 9th. We got a couple of game fives with 76ers and Celtics and the Nuggets and Suns. So what we'll do is, as per usual, we'll get picks from the guys, and then we'll explain the reasoning behind those picks. Brandon, why don't you tip things off? What are the picks that you like for Tuesday?
All right, I'm loaded up for Tuesday. It is a big slate, 2 game fives, 2-2. I mean, this is about as good as it gets in the NBA. We don't get too many more of these 2 games a night days either. So I got a bunch here. I'm going to go with Sixers under 103.5 on the team total, and then give me Malcolm Brogdon at least 2 threes for a prop in that one. And then I'm going to load up on the Denver Nuggets. I'm ready. This is the game I've been waiting for, game 5. Give me the Nuggets -5, 5.5. Give me Nuggets in 6 on the series. Give me Nuggets to win the West. I'm loading up on futures. We'll get into it when we get there.
Jim, what about you?
Excellent. Well, I'll start where Brandon and I are in lockstep. I'm also all over Denver. This is a spot we targeted before the series, and it's looking like nothing's really changed in my mind to stop it. So I'm going to be on Nuggets spread. I'm going to be on Nuggets alt spread. I'm going to be looking at Kevin Durant under on points and rebounds, as well as potentially points, rebounds, and assists. A little quieter on the other game. All I'm really looking at there is Tatum over for rebounds.
Got it. And that way, this is all, out of the way for people that are looking for picks. But before we actually get into the reasoning behind this, I should probably mention, if you don't know me or haven't heard me on this podcast before, I started with Action Network back in March, and I host our show Green Dot Daily Monday through Friday at 3 Eastern. And Jim Turvey and I will actually be hosting some WNBA versions of this podcast as well, starting with a little season preview we're planning for this Friday. So keep an eye out for that. But let's get into the thought process behind these picks. We're going to start with Celtics Sixers game 5, which is the earlier game on Tuesday. And Brandon, you said you like that Sixers team total under. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I feel like we just saw this exhausting game, right? Sunday was exhausting as a fan. Great basketball, 2 classic games. But here's the minutes that we saw in that game. We saw James Harden 47 minutes. That's all but 1 minute of a traditional game. Joel Embiid 46. I don't love that. Tyrese Maxey 45. Tobias Harris 45. Jason Tatum 47. Jaylen Brown 44. Look, that's what happens in an overtime game in the playoffs. You got to play all the minutes. But here we are. We've been on, I believe now, just a game every 2 days, all the way through here. These are tired teams. They went all the way. They pushed hard into overtime. Boston, I think, the minutes are a little less for them. Horford, only 38. Brogdon, 36. Derek White, 31. So I like Boston to have a little bit of a fatigue advantage here. And beating Harden at 46 and 47 is a real worry for me. We thought that would be a worry for Sunday. It didn't happen. Harden was awesome, got into the time machine. I don't know how to tell you when Harden's going to be good or not anymore. I have no idea. I thought we figured it out. I thought it was, we had a week off in game 1, so he was rested, and now he's not rested. Now he's bad again. It's apparently not that. But I just feel like the signs point toward a slog of a game here. This is a huge pivotal game, a big moment for both franchises. And I think we're just going to have tired teams, and probably either that means tired legs and tired shots that hit front rim, or it means more from the backups who are just not as good. That's why they're the backups. So then a little bit less efficient of offense. To me, when I do a team total under, it's because I'm kind of looking for multiple outs here. So the main out is I like Boston to win the game. I rather play this than the cover because the line is getting a little high at 7. But the other out is we might just get an ugly game. And maybe we just see both teams settling in around 100 or less. Maybe Philly even wins, but I can still win the bet that way. So I like the under 103.5. Philly's been at 87 and 102 in their losses. So I think that's the right angle there. And then I do have kind of a complicated but fun same game parlay that correlates to this. Complicated but fun is how I do bets, Maria, on buckets. That's how I roll here. So James Harden, I think, is clearly the bellwether of the series, right? James Harden scores 42 in a win, 45 in a win, and then what? Something like 16 and 12 in the 2 losses. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do something correlated with James Harden. If you like Boston, you probably should like them because James Harden's not scoring. If you like Philly, you probably expect James Harden is scoring. So here's the same game parlay I've cooked up. Harden goes under 22 and a half. Sixers go under the 103 and a half. And then the Celtics lead at halftime and cover the -7. That's 4 parts, but they're all correlated. Boston gets out early. Harden never gets going. Philly doesn't score. Plus 348. It's complicated, but Boston has hit that all 4 parts pretty comfortably in all 4 of their wins. So I like getting aggressive there because if Harden doesn't show up, then I feel like that's kind of been the read in the series. If Harden can't score like he needs to, Philly has not had enough other options.
I really like this. I mean, first of all, I agree with everything you said regarding just the Sixers team under. Not only are they going to be traveling and most likely the more tired team, it doesn't feel like this is going to be a Sixers win. It just feels like the Celtics should have won the last game. I mean, they're by all accounts. I mean, it took overtime and another Herculean effort by James Harden in order to win that game 4. And so being that, you kind of need that to happen in order for the Celtics to win. And, have Harden go under his point total, have the Sixers generally not be scoring as much. I could see all of those things happening. And what's interesting to me too is just how much more balanced the Celtics were, 6 players in double digits. Whereas for Philly, again, you need Harden to be all of a sudden like, MVP Harden scoring over 40 in order for this Celtics team to have a chance. And I do not like their chances just in terms of the level of rest that they're going to have. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, no, in fact, my play kind of ties along with this approach that both of you are taking. Is I do see a slog of a game with a lot of missed shots and a lot of rebounds out there for people to grab. Brandon, you were talking about minutes. You were running through, 47 Tatum, 46 Embiid. Here's one for you. 14 minutes. That was Time Lord's minutes. He is not getting much run this postseason. It's I don't know if he's not fully healthy. I don't know if Mazzulla doesn't have full confidence in him, but he is not getting the minutes to steal rebounds right now. And one of the guys grabbing the rebounds in his stead is Jason Tatum. He's averaging well over 10 rebounds a game this postseason. His number's at 9.5 right now, which is higher than it was during the regular season. So the books have, they've sniffed it out a little bit. They're not zoning out, but he's hit this, I believe 7 of 10 in the playoffs. And one of those misses was a big blowout so he only got like 16 minutes. So in the games, he's really played significant minutes. He's 7 of 9. I don't think either of us see, I mean, I could see a Celtics blow up, but I don't think it's going to be one of those where it's like, Tatum doesn't play the 4th quarter, because I just don't see either of these teams really, exploding offensively in this game 5. So Tatum's been hitting this over. Time Lord really isn't getting the minutes to steal those rebounds from him. So that's kind of the angle there. Along with you guys, I see kind of a slog of a game, lots of rebound opportunities, and Tatum's been grabbing them.
Yeah, I mean, Tatum had 18 rebounds in game 4, which is wild. I mean, for him clearly not having his best game offensively, I think he had 1 field goal in the first half, still ends up with 24 points. Like I said, those 18 boards, 4 blocks. So really showed up on the defensive end. But I think we all feel, tell me if you guys agree. I think we all feel like this is the Celtics series. It's their series to lose. And even though they lost the last game, I just feel so much better about them than I do the Sixers in this series. And I would be pretty shocked if the Sixers are able to win 2 in a row. So anything else we should add about this this game 5 before we turn our attention to Suns Nuggets?
Yeah, I got one more prop. I'm going to do Brogdon threes. I like the Tatum rebounds, by the way. That was on my list of props to look at. You mentioned the one game, Jim, that he played only 19 minutes. He still had 7 rebounds that game. So if you just up the minutes to what normal pace would be, then he easily clears there too. So I do have a little more concern than you, I think, on a possible blowout or just kind of pulling away late. And he had a 10, he had an 11. So the number has gone up enough now that I'm like, I wish we were going to get like a nice juicy double line or something.
Yeah.
So I still like it, but I don't necessarily love it, need to play it. Brogdon threes, he's averaging 4 per game this series. He's at least 2 all 4 games. He's at least 6 attempts, all 4 of them. It's kind of when he's in, he's getting the shots up. And he did play a little less down the stretch there for Boston, but I like him at 2. At FanDuel, our sponsor, you can get him to play 3 3-pointers is plus 200, 4 is plus 600. He's had a 5 3-pointer game and a 6 this series already. He's getting those shots up. He's making 53%. So he's not going to keep doing that forever, but they're pretty good looks for him. So yeah, I think that's like a typical escalator play that I do like Brogdon on threes. And I agree with you, Maria. It does seem like this should be a Celtics series. Basically, we have 4 games. There's 2 blowout, comfortable wins for Boston. And then there's 2. This could be a sweep. The other 2 games could have just been James Harden doesn't make a 3 at the end of both of them. And we're done here and having a very different conversation. That is, I guess, not talking about them currently. But It does seem like it's Boston series to lose. I don't think that means Philly can't win. You win one home game, you steal a different one. That's it. You're out. But it's Boston's to lose for sure.
I'm still just floored about sort of the end of game 4 and the Celtics use or lack thereof of timeouts, just their poor late game execution. And yet, like, they were down so big and really had a chance to storm back and win despite so many things going Philly's way. So I'm not feeling great if I'm Philly. And a big reason is just Joel Embiid is clearly just not healthy. And he's, he's just not operating at full strength. He's essentially on one healthy leg, which has sort of been his story in the past, pretty much every postseason, which is why they haven't won. So there we go. Let's turn our attention now to Nuggets and Suns. Another series that's tied 2-2. Nuggets are favored by 5.5 in this one. And Brandon, you like the Nuggets minus the points.
I don't like the Nuggets minus the points. I love the Nuggets minus the points. I tweeted about wanting this line before it even popped last night. And then I'm refreshing apps. Give me the line, post the line, give us the line. So I was in already at Nuggets minus 3.5, what posted at one book. I still see a lot of 5s out there. It's minus 5.5 at FanDuel right now. I don't really mind at any of them. I'd rather get the shorter number, of course, but you've heard the stat we've talked about. The team that's winning is typically covering. I like the Nuggets a lot here. And I liked them in this precise game 5 spot the moment the schedule came out. This is the spot that we talked about heading into the series because what we've seen is continuing. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are playing every minute they possibly can. And we're back to the schedule thing. We just talked about it with Embiid and Harden, and Durant and Booker are not the same. But man, they're doing everything. And they're not just playing all the minutes. They're doing everything. This is a 2-man Suns team doing everything. And oh my gosh, are they doing everything? That was incredible on Sunday. But here we are now hitting the road where the Suns are not as good. They were 17-24 on the road this year. Denver was 34-7 at home. Denver is as good as anyone in the league at home. And don't forget the elevation and that factors into the fatigue. So here we are with a Suns team that has to be wearing down with unheard of usage that Booker and Durant are seeing, playing all the minutes. And now it's a spot where they haven't been good on the road. They weren't good games 1 and 2. Denver won by double digits, both of those games. And look, the Suns are a lot of fun. Devin Booker is like looking into the face of God right now and just hitting every shot that he takes. Like Kevin Durant, what did he score? Like 36 yesterday, and we were just like, didn't notice, don't care, it didn't matter because Jokic scored 50 and Booker scores every shot that he takes. This is absurd basketball right now. But at some point, those guys are going to miss a shot. Like, give me a shot, miss one shot sometime, Devin Booker. And I like the Nuggets here. I still like them as the better team in the series. That's been my read all series long. I haven't really been daunted by these last couple of games. The Nuggets have been facing the hand of God, Devin Booker, and still had a chance to win both games. So this game 5 elevation spot in Denver, this is a hammer spot for me.
And Jim, you are feeling the same way about Denver, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only is it they're traveling today, they're going to elevation. They're not great on the road. Denver's good at home. It's also one of the quicker turnarounds. Earlier in this series, they had a couple days off on those travel days before they were coming home too. This is a much quicker turnaround. It's an older Kevin Durant, which is going to go into the cap that I've got here. It's just it's like Brandon said. I mean, I'm with him pretty much 100% of what he said. This was the spot from the beginning of the series. I think it's really easy to kind of lose track with, game to game, we get these narratives. Booker is playing out of his mind right now. If you zoom out, this is the spot you want to be on Denver. If there's a spot you ever want to be on them, it's right now. And I do. It's not to the extremes of the Celtics and Sixers, but this very easily could be 4-0 Nuggets as well. These 2 wins in Phoenix have gone down to the wire. The final scores end up being like 6 or 7. Both ones, I believe, were 1 possession games under a minute, and then there was just free throws down the stretch that made it, a tiny bit bigger. But this very reasonably could be, over or Nuggets 3-1. Coming into the series, the Nuggets were my look. This is just it's such a good spot for them. I'm even looking at some alt spreads. I really think that the Suns could look at this and, they are potentially getting called back for game 6. They'll be back home. They'll get the chance to push it. They can't lose the series today. So if we've seen 4 wins of 29 or more in this postseason already, that's out of about 57 games. That's like 7%. These 2 games are close, so I know that if you're doing math here, it's a little funky, but you can do an alt spread up to 29 plus minus 20.5 is the biggest alt spread you can get on FanDuel. It's plus 1,800. That's about 5% implied. So there's once you get out to those extremes, it's the tiniest of margins because you're talking about 5 versus 6% implied. But I do think there's maybe a better chance of Suns just folding it up and moving along to game 5. So if you're with us on being fully locked and loaded on the Nuggets, I don't hate sprinkling, a couple along the way, Nuggets minus 12.5, Nuggets 17.5, just spread them out a little bit, go down in unit as you go if you want. That's typically what I'll do. I think my favorite play, Nuggets in general are favorite, but I really like looking under on Kevin Durant. He is playing out of his mind. He's playing great, but he's also some of these, we talk a lot about potential assists, potential rebounds. These numbers for him right now are crazy. So he's grabbing 82.5% of his rebound chances right now. That is comically above what typically a player will get, especially a player like Kevin Durant, who's not, a Nikola Jokic, who has the width and size to on a contested rebound really get all of them. So I think that rebound number is going to come down. He's averaging over 10 a game. I don't see that lasting. His potential assists are far over 50% as well in the series. And his shooting, that Booker and Durant are mid-range gods for sure. But at some point they have to come back to earth. So betting on their aggression, I know Raheem is famous for saying, don't try and catch the falling knife. Maybe I've got a little bit of falling knife. I think there's so many falling knives that maybe I can try and, if there's 8 falling knives, one of them I can catch a hold of. So I'm looking Kevin Durant under points and rebounds. I think is my favorite, but I also don't hate looking under points, rebounds, and assists. There's also the blowout potential. Durant's the oldest of this crew. I think he might be most impacted by the quick turnaround and the altitude. So all over Denver, kind of fading Kevin Durant big. I think that's how I'm feeling in game 5.
I really like the point you made about sort of the Nuggets feeling more like they've had this series in hand, despite the last 2 losses, very similar to the way that we were talking about the Celtics. the Nuggets are far more balanced than the Suns. This game 4, Nuggets had all 5 of their starters in double figures. Obviously, we know that Jokic also dropped a 50 spot with those 11 dimes. But the point you made too about like the Suns could very well have lost this game if it were not for Landry Shamet making 5 threes. I mean, where would the Suns be? Where would the Suns be? Like, they needed that sort of outlier performance from Shamet, even though, Booker and Durant each had 36 and Booker was 14 of 18 from the field and 12 dimes for him as well. So I'm feeling very similarly the same way I kind of feel like the Celtics are the more balanced team in that series. The Nuggets feel like the more balanced team here. And it just sort of points to your play, Brandon, on the Nuggets in this series.
Yeah, this is the spot to me to go in on Nuggets futures. And, I'm the futures guy. This is really, I think, the spot to make a big futures splash here, because if you like Denver to win this game, like Jim and I both do a lot, this is probably going to be your best chance to invest in Denver right now. So I like Nuggets to win the series. Nuggets in 6 right now, I'm seeing at plus 260. That's implied about 28%. I think that's really low. I put that closer around 45%, which is a pretty big margin. That probably tells me my math is off a little bit because the margin shouldn't be off that much. But I like Nuggets I like them to win the next couple of games and close this out. I don't see any reason why they can't go to Phoenix and get that win in game 6. What will still be just one day of rest and a continually further tired Phoenix team. They've had every chance to win in both Phoenix games. So I like them there. Just on the series, if you rather play it that way at FanDuel, it's minus 162. That's 62%. I have them around 74%. So if you don't want to do the aggressive thing like I do and just play just to take the series, I like that. But I think also, if you like them to win the series, if you're playing that standard escalator, you got to think forward. Okay, well, if they're winning the series, what else are you going to win? And I have to like them to win the West. I'm going to like Denver against Golden State or Los Angeles. I expect that series to go just as long, possibly longer. So there might be a rest advantage in Denver's favor. They're going to certainly have home court advantage in that series. We know that the Warriors in particular are not good on the road. So that would be a huge dichotomy there in that series. And again, my math, I have the Nuggets almost exactly even odds to come out of the West right now because I'm very high on them winning the series. And I will definitely like them a lot in the next round. That would be obviously a plus 100. I see a plus 200 out there right now for Nuggets to win the West. So that is a huge margin in my favor. I will say, Jim, you and I talked before the series about, is this the spot to bet on Nikola Jokic to win West MVP rather than the series? I see a plus 240 there. I don't really know how they win if it's not Jokic. And so then we get even better margin, but also maybe Jamal Murray just like hits 1,000 threes. We've seen that happen before. I don't think the 40 cents is so necessary for me. So I think I probably just play the 200 here. But to me, this is the spot. I don't know if I need Denver title futures because I'm not positive how I feel about them. And I'm not really sure who comes out of the East still, if I'm being honest right now. But Denver to win the series, Denver to win the West. I'm playing multiple ways. This is an angle that I love. This is a game that I love. And when you're better and you find a spot you like, and it's a spot you want to hammer, it's a good idea to attack it multiple ways. So that's the way I'm attacking this one.
And to your point, you probably won't get a better price or a better discount than you will right now coming off of those 2 losses for Denver. Now, you mentioned, Brandon, not knowing exactly who's going to come out of the East. Do we want to get into a quick little reaction here on the weekend, particularly with Heat Knicks? Are we feeling that right now?
Yeah, a little weekend recap. We usually recap a little bit on Monday. Jim, your Knicks, life support. How you feeling?
Oh, it does feel that way. So I you go out of game 3, which was one of Joe, Sean, and I talked about this on Monday's bucket. One of the worst offensive performances I've ever seen from a Knicks team. It truly was terrible. And my initial reaction was like, zoom out, hey, they're shooting 27% from three. At some point, there's going to be, Julius Randle maybe isn't going to heat up, but there are guys on his team. They're not a 27% shooting team from three. Then you dig a little deeper. The Heat are only shooting 30% from three. So I don't know if the Heat, they were a worse shooting team in the regular season, but I don't know. You kind of had this from the start. You pegged this as the ways that the Knicks offense works is they get free throws, they get offensive rebounds, and they don't turn the ball over. Well, guess what? Those three things that those three factors that usually go hard in their favor are about even with the Heat. The Heat have cleaned up. They've made sure the Knicks have not been able to get on the offensive glass. They haven't fouled the Knicks, and they're about even on turnovers. And if the Knicks aren't getting those key advantages, it's not a good offense. And when you toss in Jimmy Butler being the best player in the series, you toss in Spo being and it's not even really a shot at Tibbs, because I just think Spo is the best coach in basketball right now.
Yeah.
He's an incredible coach. He lives for this stuff, and he's really showing it. He's locked in right now. I think the Celtics and Sixers are both, they're not going to be sleeping on the Heat. This is a legitimate Heat team come posting. It's kind of crazy. They did the thing where they walked through the whole regular season, but it's working. And this Knicks team is so hard to read that, they could wake up from three, and if they win today, they're suddenly 2-2, and it's the best of three where they have home court. So I'm not entirely writing them off. For me, it's a stay away right now. I would lean towards the Heat, but that's how the market leans. So that I don't really see a whole lot of value there.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, here's how I feel about the series. My main feeling is we just watched basketball transcendence for 8 hours on Sunday, and now I have to watch Knicks Heat again. That's how I feel about the series. Sorry, Jim. I do think that there's value on Heat futures. And let me be clear what I mean on that. I think the number is wrong. I think the Heat are going to lose and not win these bets. But Jim, you talked about 5% versus 6%, that sort of thing. Heat are plus 480 to win the East and plus 2,800 to win the title. I don't think those are the right numbers. I don't think they're going to win. I don't think they're going to win the title. I don't think they're going to win the East. I think they could win the East, though. And part of the thing is, I'm not sure the Knicks win tonight. And if the Heat win there and then win in 5, Jimmy gets a lot of time to rest that ankle. And now you have a Heat team with Jimmy Butler, who's going to look at either Boston, who he took to literally the last shot a year ago,
yes,
or to Philly, who he lives rent-free in the heads of every player on that team. Like, Miami plays up to their opponent. They play down in the regular season to the bad opponents. They play up to these teams. You're going to have by far a coaching advantage with Spo against Missoula or Doc. And you're going to have Jimmy Butler, hopefully more rested, who could be the best player in the court against either one of those teams. They are going to have a chance. Miami's going to do the thing where they're going to be like within 6 points with 4 minutes left. And now we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't mind the plus 480. I'm not going to go crazy on it. It's not a prediction, but I think it's the wrong number. I think Miami is live to be the second 8 seed ever to make a finals.
I love it. I think you just convinced me on that. And it's for all the reasons that you just mentioned. I agree, Jim. I don't think the Knicks are dead, but at the same time, they're kind of on life support right now. I mean, I felt like they were on life support losing game 1. And then the fact that they win, it must have been game 2, right? Without Jimmy.
Yeah.
And it was barely. And that was, with a very favorable crowd. And so, this game here Monday night, it's kind of a must win for them. And I feel like their chances in the series are obviously much more diminished. And that's why you see, a price that's not super favorable regarding the Heat on this series as a whole. But the way I've seen Missoula coach, the way I've seen Rivers coach so far, I do like that coaching matchup if Spoelstra is going against any of them, and Jimmy is probably the most confident in the bunch. So Jim, being a Knicks fan, not the greatest outlook there.
Hey, this
But
is as good as it's been in
meanwhile,
years, so I'll take it.
exactly. Look, they won a first round series,
Yeah.
and that was the first time since what, 2013. So
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, this is definitely progress. And Jalen Brunson has been just an absolute great pickup for them this season. But that being said, Brandon, you took the Warriors in their series. Are you feeling worried?
I wouldn't say I'm feeling worried, but I definitely wouldn't say I'm feeling confident. We're down 2-1 on the pick. I don't like 2-1 paints a grimmer picture, I think, for the Warriors than it does for the Knicks, partly because home court is flipped between those two. Like the Warriors blew game one. Maybe that's not fair to say, but coming off of the game 7, they weren't mentally locked in. They lost the game. They lost home court advantage. Since then, we effectively have held serve. We had effectively a blowout Warriors win at home. That's what's supposed to happen. We had a big Lakers win at home over the weekend. That's what's supposed to happen. It was ugly. It feels terrible right now because of how good the Lakers looked in that game. But I think to me, the main takeaway from the series is I don't know that I'm panicking on the Warriors pick. I'm definitely not looking to add to my Warriors position right now in the series. I think the bigger takeaway for me is we're going to keep overreacting to these games because it's Steph and LeBron and we have to. Like we're going to see them, Steph hit 6 threes in a quarter or LeBron go barreling through everyone for a dunk. And like we're going to see the things that flash and remind us of all the great stuff they can do. These just aren't those teams. Like we're going to have some fun. We're going to see the moments. Someone's probably going to win a long series here. I think that's kind of what we thought coming in. I don't want long-term futures positions on either of these teams. I don't think that it's not impossible because we don't have necessarily a great team here. And the Warriors are always going to be a matchup problem. And LeBron can always turn back the way clock. And you never know what can happen. I don't really think that LeBron is there right now on this foot that he's playing on. We'll see in the future. I don't think Steph has enough help in these teams. These are just two very flawed teams who can hit the great heights and then miss them almost all the other times. And I think that's what we're seeing is every now and then it looks really good because also the other teams are really not that good. And it's kind of like, to me, this is slanderous, but I'm just going to say it now that I thought of it. It's like when we're watching March Madness, this is like if we took one of those 8 versus 9 opening round games and we're like, hey, how about best of 7? That'll be fun, right? And we just like let them go for it for a while. Like, I feel like we're having fun and it's Steph and LeBron. I don't feel like we're going to get a title out of either one of these teams here.
Well, I feel that way more so about the Warriors just because I think they're more tired. And I mean, there's a reason why it's so hard to win a title back to back. And, they're not the youngest bunch either. And again, they needed a crazy effort, a vintage effort by Steph in order to make it out of the first round in a game 7. So as much as both of these teams are up and down, I love the Warriors too, Brandon. I really do. I mean, how could you not? But and it pains me to say, specifically for Steph, but it's just not looking good. And Jim, I believe you had a ticket on them too.
Yeah, I'm probably not quite as down on them as the two of you. I do think I'm also in kind of a wait and see right here. I'm not going to double down. I do think there are paths forward for this Warriors team. And I think even in this round, certainly, I think this was, and I'm not even going conspiracy theory on this. I'm not saying the league won 7 games. I'm saying these are two teams that understand the bigger picture and are okay with it being a longer series. They're not going to sell out to try and win games. So I kind of saw a longer series from the start. I'm still thinking that way. I think it's going to come down. This is a terrible, hot take, but like there's going to be a lot of shot variance. And if the Warriors take a 10 threes, it could be a couple good bounces, a couple bad bounces. I still like the Warriors in the series. I like my play for these games 3 and 4. I was going to bet Warriors money line each game. I was seeing a split. I still like that. So I'm on the Warriors money line tonight. And in terms of, futures looking down the line, I'm certainly not going to add to it right now. But I do think, the Lakers, part of what they've done so well against the Warriors, Joe Delaire had a great breakdown of it. they have a defense that can kind of uniquely stop Steph. If they do that like high drop with Anthony Davis, like Joe was talking about, that's a pretty tough defensive assignment. The Denver doesn't have that. I still like Denver. I still would be betting Denver, but I do think the Warriors provide more of a matchup problem for the Nuggets than almost any other team out there. So that'll be a very interesting series if we do get to it. I'm in a wait and see. This is annoying advice, but this is hopefully why you listen to us all year and you built those portfolios and you're sitting with us and now can just have some patience and kind of see how things play out, so that we don't have to do a future, this second. We can kind of like look at our portfolio, say, hey, we're looking solid. Let's see a couple more games and let's really dig into matchups, see what coaching adjustments happen. I'm not jumping off ship, but I'm probably not adding to anything as well right now.
Yes, you should be listening to us all year long, and you should be listening to us for the rest of the week as we come to you here on Buckets with daily podcasts presented by FanDuel. And we are going to say goodbye, but before we do, we have to get a quick WNBA mention in, since Jim and I will be starting our W version of Buckets later this week in advance of that season beginning May 19th. Now, Brandon, I need to know sort of if you have any fandom when it comes to the W.
I do. So I'm a noted, as we all know here on Buckets, Timberwolves diehard fan and Bulls diehard fan. Noted in my Chicago and Minnesota sports fandom.
That's loyalty, never straying either.
So loyal. Those are my teams also in the W. I love the Lynx. I enjoyed greatly the dynastic run that I know is not happening anymore. We got a Chicago Sky championship. Guys, I need good news. Candace is coming home and Maya's coming out of retirement and we're going back to the finals, right? I don't, honestly, I haven't followed a lot on these teams in the off season. Can you give me an outlook? Like, where am I looking at, Sky or Lynx? If I want to put like $5 down on a long shot future, and I see a long shot, I see Sky at FanDuel are 41-1 to win the title. Lynx are 45-1. What do you guys think about either one of these teams for the year?
So I'm going to let Jim answer this, but I'll just set the stage by saying, sadly, Candace Parker ain't coming home. She's gone off to Vegas. And then on the Minnesota side, not only is Maya officially announced her retirement, which hadn't really happened prior, there was still that open door of like, could she play again? No, she is officially retired. And not only that, but you lose Sylvia Fowles, who's one of the greatest players ever. And so it's a completely new era for Minnesota, Jim.
It is. And Brandon, I'm really sorry to say this, unfortunately. So here's the good news. The good news is there are win totals out in the market. You can go find win totals on the WNBA for this season. I haven't seen in the past. It's awesome. I'm really excited. Bad news, I bet the under on both of these teams, Brandon. In fact, the Lynx are a team that I'm much lower on than the market. I'll tell you, there are some smart people out there who disagree with me on the Lynx. That's probably the one, if you were to talk yourself into it. I mean, Cheryl Reeve, one of the greatest coaches of all time. Nafisa Collier is awesome. She only played a little bit last season. I am really curious to see how she comes back. If she comes back, her rookie season, she looked like she could be like in the Asia Wilson tier of the league, like really, really outstanding all around player, contributes defense, offense, assists, rebounds, points, everything. Her second and third seasons were a little bit less dominant. It went slightly down instead of going slightly up. If she comes back this season and we go back to like either rookie or better, the ceiling is there for her to be one of the best players in the league and this team to be in the playoffs. I want to see it first, especially with her having only played about 4 or 5 games last year. So I am a little lower on both teams, sadly, Brandon. I'm sorry. But keep an eye on those Lynx. Keep an eye on Nafisa Collier. She's one of the best players in the league. She's fun to watch no matter what. So hopefully if you need a path in, that might be it.
I'll take it. It's better than the Bulls and the Timberwolves. At least they'll still be playing. Am I right? Let's just have a little fun.
Yes, something to look forward to. So definitely keep an eye out for our season preview episode for the WNBA on Buckets Friday, May 12th with Jim Turvey and myself. But that's going to do it for this edition of Buckets NBA version. And once again, you can find us presented by FanDuel with daily episodes, daily picks. Brandon Anderson, thanks as well for getting this band together. This was super fun. And as always, you can download our award-winning Action app. You can rate and review this podcast, hopefully 5 stars. And if you do, you could potentially win some Action swag or a free Action Pro subscription. Guys, thanks again. And let's get some buckets, huh?